We're delighted that you have come to join us this evening to hear Jessica Wescott talk about her project, Planting to Feed. We became aware of her and her extraordinary work in our local community through Westminster Presbyterian Church's own work team, which is Mike and Sue and Marlis, and Len cannot be here this evening, but we spend a good deal of time working with the three pillars of the project on the southeast side of the city that includes the warehouse, the community center, and the east side a charter school. Jessica is going to talk with us this evening about her program, how she got involved in this amazing work, and the sorts of things that she's doing in the community. As is our routine practice, Jessica will make her presentation, and then we'll have an opportunity for some exchange with those of you who have joined us this evening. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jessica and let her tell you about herself, her work, and her project.
Awesome, thank you so much. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully you all will be able to hear some of the audio that I have embedded into this presentation. So I'll introduce myself actually throughout my presentation. You all are in luck because I just did this this past weekend for my sororities convention. I was invited to speak to a group of about 400 women in a breakout session. So I had a small breakout session where I had an opportunity to talk about planting to feed. So in 2020, over 38 million Americans lived in households that struggled with food insecurity or lack of access to affordable, nutritious diet. This is kind of crazy because it represents a 9% increase since 2019. So I'm going to jump in and kind of give you some information about food security. So this is the official definition. It's the state of being without reliable access to sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food. The USDA also defines food insecurity as a lack of consistent access to enough food for active, healthy lifestyle. One thing that's really important to note, though, is that hunger and food security, they may be closely related, but they are completely two different concepts. Hunger refers to a personal physical sensation of discomfort. So when you wake up in the morning and your stomach is growling and you want some breakfast, that's hunger. While food insecurity refers to a lack of available financial resources for food at the household level. Here were some quick facts that I found, and I thought they were really great and wanted to share. 1 in 25 of the households in the US experiences very low food security, where households report regularly skipping meals or reducing their intake because they could not afford more food. Black and Latinx households are disproportionately impacted by food security, with food insecurity rates in 2020 triple and double the rate of white households, respectively. The food insecurity rate is highest in the South, followed by the Midwest and the Northeast. Now, I live in Delaware. I've been here for just over 10 years. I know that sometimes we like to think that we're in the South, but I think we're actually considered in the Northeast. According to the official poverty rate, 37.2 million people lived in poverty in 2020. That's 3.3 million more than 2019. I saw this quote and I thought it was important to share as it was super impactful for me. A nation that allows 13% of its citizens to go hungry cannot achieve its full potential. I'm going to repeat that. A nation that allows 13% of its citizens to go hungry cannot achieve its full potential. So, who am I and why am I talking to you about food security? So here's how my story starts. I went to Wesley College. This is me in 2009 when I got accepted, and I was so excited to head out to college. This is me, you know, enjoying my college life. I was on the cheerleading team. I captained our cheerleading team. This is actually one of my sorority sisters that we joined the cheerleading team together. Then I joined a sorority, and it really changed my life and really showed me what service could look like at a bigger level. This was me with my big sister that initiated me. This is me with my little sister, who to this day I still love and mentor. And this is me on my graduation day with my pledge class sister, who unfortunately lost her battle to mental health. This also was a really impactful moment in my life and really shaped the person that I am and how I do service and the empathy that I have for people. So after college, I continued to work at Wesley College. I was really fortunate to be hired as a full-time staff member, and I was their alcohol education coordinator. So I was the person that when a student got written up for their alcohol citations, they would need to come to me to take their classes. Now, I went to school for mathematics, so this literally had nothing to do with what I went to school for. After college, like many students, I was broke. I didn't have a lot of resources. I didn't have a lot of money. And what a lot of people don't know is this picture was actually the start of Planting to Feed. This is myself and my husband started growing food on our small deck in our townhouse in Bear. But because I was broke and I didn't have a well-paying job right out of college, I had to move and move into the city of Wilmington. So this is me. Actually, I don't know if you can see what I'm touching, but that's corn that I'm growing in my backyard in the city of Wilmington. So this is actually maybe a mile, not even, from Sally's school. So on the opposite side by Wilmington, what's now Wilmington Brew Works. You could probably see the park right out of the back of this picture. So this is me in the city of Wilmington growing corn to feed myself and supplement my groceries. I did what any other college student does when they're trying to avoid their student loans. I'm not saying that that's the right approach, but that's the approach I took. So I went back to school until I was ready to, pay my student loans. And I went back to school to get my MBA. What I was finding in the market is, while I have a math degree, and that's a really amazing degree to have, I didn't want to become an actuary. So I had to do something that could add to my professional portfolio. So amongst all of this, I am serving at my local church, and I go to the Journey in Newark. I've been there since, I believe, 2015, and I am kind of on our impressions team. So these are the folks who walk people in, they wave at you at the door, they're standing at the back of the room, making sure if you need anything throughout the gathering, we can support you. And I see this guy who is visibly impacted by our worship set. I see him crying very hard and ends up storming out after our gathering was over. Now, I had my post, so I knew I wanted to go find him after the gathering, but I didn't want to forget about him. Unfortunately, after the gathering, I could not find him in the lobby. So I shot up a prayer and just prayed to God that, hey, this guy was going to be okay, and that whatever's going on, he'll get the resources he needs. Fast forward, I'm leaving the church and I see this guy standing on the corner. I'm in the left-hand lane as I need to take a left onto the highway, and I see this guy on the right-hand side. I scream at my husband, pull over, pull over. That's the guy, that's the guy. And I don't know how he made it across all of those lanes, but he did. And we pulled over and we spoke to this guy. And we found out that he was actually homeless and he lived across the street in the underpass right by the journey. He invited us to see what his tent community looked like. He and his friend, we prayed with them on the corner. We even asked them, hey, if you wait right here, well, we promise we will be back with resources, toilet paper, food, clothes, whatever it is that you need. Now, remember, at this time, I had nothing, but I was willing to give whatever I did have in order to help out my neighbors. And so it didn't stop just there. What you see right here is myself going back to our church leadership team and asking, hey, I met this guy. He literally lives across the street. He's homeless. I want to grow food for people who are homeless and suffering from hunger. I'm growing it for myself at home, so I know that I can do it for the community. And our code red, which is our outreach director, at the time said, okay, I believe in you, let's do it. So we built these beds out back at the church, and my pastor allowed us to grow food. This is actually when the church was quite small, and so we had a lot of parking lot space. And so this is literally in the back of the church. And what's really important about this, there's a lot of foreshadowing in my life, and just I didn't see the picture that God was laying out for me until honestly, when I started thinking about all of the things and all the blessings that I have. But what's important about this picture is this is now the location of our food distribution center. So what started as a place where we were just growing food for our community is now the food distribution center that serves hundreds of people once a month in a drive-through food distribution setting. As you can see, our tomatoes are looking a little wild in the back of the church. So this is me. My luck started to turn around and I got hired at a large tech company, a global tech company. I didn't know at the time, this was me on my first day. It wasn't cold. I don't know why I was wearing that big scarf, but this is me on my first day and I was super excited and I feel super blessed. At some point, I would love to share kind of my journey in my professional world as well. But I was super excited to kind of get started and get my luck to turn up. So one of the benefits of working at a large software company is I had the ability to team up with our corporate social responsibility team, which really puts out volunteers all across the globe. And I asked these folks, okay, could you come out with me? I don't really know what I'm doing. This is something that I'm passionate about, but I'm looking to feed the community. And I had all of these people show up from my organization. So this is a picture of us kind of dishing up the food at the first dinner we ever served. This is at a community center in Wilmington. At the time, it was called Horizon House. And another really important piece about this picture is you could see my friend Alicia, myself in the middle, and my friend Sarah. What's so important about this is at the time, we were just people trying to do something really awesome for the community. And later on, these two women became founding board members of Planting to Feed. Here you can see a picture of my husband and one of my board members' husbands kind of walking the streets of Wilmington, handing out food. So you see this picture, and some of you that have visited Kingswood may say, that looks kind of familiar. So as we are feeding the community, we get things really going. We find out the Horizon House Community Center needs to shut down. And I am just why? We're doing such amazing work. We have, we've started out consistently. The community knows that we're going to be there. And I had a friend tell me, hey, I have a friend over at Kingswood Community Center, and you can use their kitchen to prepare your meals, as well as hand out to the community. So that's what we did. The executive director at the time reached out and said, hey, like, where is this food coming from? And I explained to them that we were growing it. And she said, take me out back. Let me take you out back and I'm going to show you something. And this is what we saw. It was an overgrown garden that needed some help. And she let us know that if we were willing to bring it back to its full glory, that the garden would be ours and we could manage it. So that's what we did. We had a group of folks come together and helped us to revitalize the garden. We took away all of the old wood beds. We did upcycle those wood beds and created a compost bin. Also, some of the wood beds are now in my personal yard, so we didn't just waste anything. A couple of years later, again, my corporation came out to help us break ground on our second property. Now, this is the last picture in my story of who I am. And this picture is important because it's not just me holding a tablecloth in the back of a truck and pretending the tablecloth is a banner. This is the day after there was a shooting in the Riverside neighborhood. We had already planned to hand out turkeys to the community on this day. And I got a call. I remember sitting in the parking lot of Kingswood Community Center, and I got a call, hey, it's not safe. We had a really bad shooting last night. We don't think that, you should host an event inside the building. There's bullet holes literally everywhere. There's caution tape everywhere. The community is at, unease right now. And so I sat in the car and I prayed about it. And God told me, go rent a U-Haul truck and hand out these turkeys. So that's what we did. So this is me riding in the back of the U-Haul, driving around the Riverside community, passing out turkeys to the neighbors. This was a really amazing moment for us in the Planting to Feed group. We had a reporter actually come out and talk to us. He was originally asking about the shooting. And I said, no, I'm not going to allow you to put negative media into my community. Come talk to us about what we're doing that's positive. And that's what he did. So he wrote a great story about us. So who is Planting to Feed? Our mission, we're on a mission to provide healthy meals to those that are hungry or maybe suffering from homelessness. By utilizing our gardens, we hope to end the hunger crisis and bridge hunger gaps. Our vision is to provide our community access and empower them through quality foods. It's really important that people know we are completely volunteer and donor funded. So where Planting to Feed comes in and what is our story? I explained some of this on my journey because the Planting to Feed story is my story. As I mentioned, in 2016, we started a small group at my church. In 2017, we served our first dinner, which you saw some pictures of. We received our first large donation and served 175 people at one time, which was a big deal for 3 or 4 people just trying to do something in the community. We also started a formal partnership with the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets and Kingswood Community Center. In October of 2017, we officially took over the Kingswood Community Center garden. In March 2018, we officially became a 501c nonprofit, which was such a big deal for us because we were so small and we really had no idea what we wanted to do. I would love to share the God story around this at some point if you're interested on how we went from a small group to a nonprofit. Also in 2018, we had our garden revitalization program at Kingswood. We partnered with SNAP Ed, and at this point, we had served 2,000 community meals. In October 2019, we broke ground on our second property, again, which was a really big deal for us. We also gave away those 200 turkeys, and at this point, from 2018 to 2019, we had served 5,000 meals to the community. So we're moving, we're shaking, we're having a good time. 2020 happens, and here comes COVID. Hopefully it'll let me play it. So whether you agree with how we responded to COVID as a country, we can all agree that everybody was confused. Nobody had any idea what was going on. We had no idea how long this thing was going to last. We just didn't know our steps forward. Now, I did have some people ask me, hey, why does the top say March 16th and the video says March 11th? And for me, while the world may have stopped on March 11th, my world actually stopped March 16th. So March 12th, my husband had a bone marrow transplant at the University of Pennsylvania. He had beat his second bout of leukemia, and I was at the hospital with him on Friday, March 12th. Come Monday, I am packing my stuff. We made a plan for me to work from the hospital while he was in isolation for 30 days so that I could be there with him. On Monday, March 16th, I got the call that, hey, the hospital shut down and you can no longer come up here. I don't know how long it'll be shut down, but they said they'll keep you posted. As you can imagine, that was a really tough moment. It would be tough for anybody. But on top of being separated from my husband for 30 days or so, March 16th was actually my birthday. And so I spent my first birthday with my husband alone. And it was a really challenging time for us. So what did we do next? Myself and the board sat down and we really thought about, hey, we need to do something. Just because, we're in the midst of COVID doesn't mean that the community is not in need of resources. So what we decided to do is grow at a limited capacity and change how we engage with the community. So we could no longer do the monthly dinners where people would come into the community center and receive a meal. And so we spun up these things that we called Harvest Fest or resource fairs. And we could have just left it at Planting to Feed, giving out food. But what we did is we called all of our nonprofit organizations and partners in the area and said, hey, we have this idea and we want to bring the resources to the community, but also keep everybody safe. So we're going to do it in a drive-through fashion. We're going to hand out masks. We're going to hand out gloves. We're going to hand out COVID cleaning kits. We, of course, handed out food. There was Narcan administration training. There was pretty much any resource that you can think of. We had it going on at the resource fair. And we did this throughout the summer and throughout the winter. In the middle, you can see that we even had a guest appearance from Lisa Blunt, Rochester. And it was really a big deal because, in Delaware, November in Delaware of 2020 was really, booming. And this was literally the day after Biden had been elected. So she could have been anywhere else. But she still chose to come hang out with her community, which to me says a lot. You can see on the left-hand side, we have some cars in the drive-through fashion, and we have our tables set up. We even had our police come out because we wanted to change the stigma of policing in our community. So we are moving forward with these Harvest Fests, and we realized, man, it is going to get cold out here, and we cannot expect people to stand outside or be in their cars to get resources. And I remember it like it's yesterday. I'm driving home on a road trip with my husband, and I come across this article about a community fridge. I reach out to the person who's hosting it in New York City. They have a call with me. They give me all of their resources. They talk me through the process. And so I went back to my friends and partner at Reach Riverside and said, hey, do y'all want to pilot this with me? It'll be a really great opportunity for us to bring resources to the community. And they said yes, which was really awesome. What we didn't know at the time, but when we were getting ready for our ribbon cutting, we found out that we were the first community refrigerator in the state of Delaware. So naturally that brought a ton of media and attention. So that top picture is us cutting a ribbon at our first ever fridge, which holds the key to my heart when it comes to our community refrigerators, because it's the one that was the proof point. Shortly after, our friends at Reach Riverside said, hey, we love what we're doing at Kingswood. The community is definitely using it. Let's open up another fridge at the teen warehouse. So that's what we did. A couple months later, we had some folks at Henrietta Johnson medical facilities reach out and said they wanted to open up a refrigerator. So that's what we did. And just a couple of weeks ago, we had someone from the YMCA of Delaware reach out and mention, hey, we want to also open up a fridge. And so that's what we did. So the most amazing thing about this fridge project, one, our community is getting the resources, but they're getting them 24/7. And we really turned the power of their food and how they prepare it over to them. And it was less of us, pushing on them what we thought they needed. So I love my niece so much. And so I'll show you a quick video clip of her getting really excited to see me on the news. So I love my niece. I'm super obsessed with her, and I always find a way to show people pictures or videos. So as we were, going through this community refrigerator project, we knew that we needed to find a way to grow 365. So one thing that I forgot to mention about our community refrigerators is all of our food that we're growing in our gardens now goes directly into the community refrigerators, which is really great because there's significantly less waste than what we were doing before, waiting, for the monthly dinners. And if something was ready before the monthly dinners, we had to risk trying to store it in time. So our friends again at Reach Riverside reached out and said, hey, we're, venturing into vertical hydroponic growing. Is this something that you all would be interested in? And, I thought about it for a little bit. I'm like, I have a full-time job. I'm not quite sure if I can handle this, but we did it anyways. God told me to do it, so I did it. And so now we have the ability to grow year round. And right now we're growing collard greens, and we now have a partnership, an expanded partnership with Reach Riverside, the Teen Warehouse, Kingswood Community Center, and Delmarva actually are the folks that sponsored this program. So it's really great that we get to partner with them as well as Delaware State University. In the middle, you can see myself and Mr. Ken, who runs the facilities over at Reach Riverside. This agricultural pod is actually a 40-foot shipping container. And if you could see kind of behind them, those are the walls that we are actually growing food on. In our picture on the left, our Senator Chris Coons came by to see what we were up to and kind of see where the future could go. On the last picture, that's super pink and purple and cool and funky colors, are our collard greens growing inside our agricultural. So what can you do in your community? And why is it important? So first and foremost, just get up and go. Don't wait. If you have a calling, get up and go. All of the barriers that you are facing when trying to volunteer and get into your community will really fall down if it's meant to be. Volunteering is super important. Get involved in your local groups. Understand the unique community needs. And another piece that's really important that we've added to this kind of discussion is listening to the community before we're acting. So one of the lessons that we learned, especially with the community refrigerators, what we saw, our meals were really successful. We did have people coming in, we did have people eating from them, which was great. But what we noticed is once we had the community refrigerators, the community embraced us so much more. And it wasn't just us kind of telling them, hey, we believe you need this meal, so here's this meal, take it or leave it, right? And now it was an opportunity for them to take back the power and really decide, hey, what is it that they want to have in their homes and how do they want to prepare it? I also mentioned for small nonprofits, it's important to donate your time, talent, and your resources if you can. A really important portion of this story is, you got to believe in yourself and you got to just trust the process. And if you have a small inkling that God's leading you in a certain way, go for it. I don't believe the girl that's, on the left side of your screen, growing food in the back of the church ever thought she would become the girl that's on the right side of the screen with all of that produce in front of her for her community. So my name is Jessica Wescott. I'm really grateful to have spent some time with you all. I'm happy to have a discussion. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, if you're on TikTok, like the kids are, and LinkedIn, follow us, and here's our website. So thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer some questions.
Well, thank you very much, Jessica, and bless you for this extraordinary vision. Those of you who are from Westminster know that we are both sponsoring a week of stocking the refrigerator at the warehouse as a part of our work group in the Urban Mission Committee. I mentioned the members of that team before, and Jessica was very approachable when we went down with this idea that we are ready to commit to this. She gave us a tour of the garden at the Kingswood Community Center, where we saw all of the work that goes into developing a garden and making it grow. Then we visited the refrigerator at the warehouse. Prior to that, a number of us had seen that hydroponic garden that's being developed at the warehouse in an earlier tour. I'll ask Jessica to talk about this in a minute, the kinds of things that you as individuals can do in volunteering to help with this effort. One of the efforts that has just commenced at Westminster is that on Sunday mornings, members of our congregation are bringing produce from their own gardens or simply contributions of foodstuffs that they want to make to the refrigerators. And we've had our first successful week of this, and it was an extraordinary success in this extraordinary congregation that I'm so proud to be a part of. People step up for things like this. So, Jessica, could you just say a word about the various ways in which individuals can contribute to this broader project in eliminating hunger in our community?
Yeah, of course. I think one of the ways, and y'all are definitely contributing already, is, if you have extra produce, or if you are a home gardener, we have now 4 fridges pending 6, I found out this morning. And, they could always use extra produce. We do fill the fridges twice per week, on Saturdays from our garden, and then on Wednesdays, we supplement from a local grocery store. Another way that you could definitely get involved if you're not a gardener, and one thing I always forget to mention is that I was not a gardener, I was a Google gardener. I learned how to garden out of necessity. So if you're interested in getting started in gardening, I'm also happy to help you kind of spin something up there. But if gardening isn't, your thing, but you do want to spend time with inside the community and with Planting to Feed, we meet every Saturday morning in the garden to harvest. And a lot of people have come who have zero gardening background, and we teach you everything that you need to know. Those would be the 2 major ways I would say that we need support as a community. The financial donations are always great, but the manpower, many hands make for light work. So we could definitely use the man and women power for sure.
Great. Are there other questions and comments for Jessica? Susan?
So when do clients or folks come, what is the process for people to access the refrigerator? When and how does that happen?
That's a really great question. So all of our refrigerators are open 24/7. They're not behind any gates. They're not behind any doors. And we did this purposely and intentionally. While we love the work that the food bank is doing and other food resources in our community, they have hours, right? And so if you're someone that works shift work, then you miss those hours, or you miss that opportunity to get the resources that you need. So we wanted to remove those barriers by making sure that our fridges are open 24/7. We have people that'll take 1 to 2 items for themselves, and then we have people that'll take an entire meal for their family, and that's okay. We also have people like you all that'll drop off vegetables or produce or food for the community as well. So on all of our fridges, it says, take what you need, leave what you can.
And we are making our deliveries from Westminster's congregation on Sundays at the moment after church to take them down to the fridge.
So I guess I'm wondering a little too, suppose I've been there and I've seen the refrigerator at Kingswood or Teen Warehouse. And so and my sister runs Hanover Food Pantry, which has been going for many, many years. And that's on Thursdays open. But things are, and I know it's a lot of work to keep it supplied. And Westminster's been a wonderful supporter of that. But so if say you come down there tomorrow and bring food, you just put it in the refrigerator, and if the refrigerator's full, I mean, it's one refrigerator that I saw when I was there. So what happens if there's do you take it into the center or something?
Yeah, great question. So I will tell you, especially given the food crisis that's happening right now, I woke up last week heavy on my heart with what's happening in Sri Lanka and Ukraine with the grain and the rice, but all of that has global impacts. And what we have seen is because the price of food has been going up, our refrigerators, we will fill them on a Saturday afternoon, and typically they're empty by Sunday morning. So I don't think that you'll ever run into a time where the fridge is so full you can't put anything in it. But if you do, there is, all of our fridges are within a couple miles from each other. Kingswood Community Center is a 3-minute drive. Henrietta Johnson is about a 7-minute drive from the teen warehouse. So if you do run into that issue, and the Y is probably a 4-minute drive from the warehouse. So if you do run into that issue, there are other fridges that are also open.
Yeah.
Great questions.
I just wanted to make a comment and say, I just love the way you kept saying, somebody said we should do this, and we did. And that is just seems to be the way you are. And I'm just so impressed and thankful for all the energy you put into this whole project. And, you know, big applause. It's wonderful, everything that you've accomplished.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes my board does think I'm crazy, and I'm like, I have this big idea. And we do talk about it, and we do, you know, do a risk analysis of everything that we do. But I would say 90% of the things that I put in front of them, while they do believe it's crazy, they also think I'm just crazy enough to make it work. So I appreciate that.
I do have one other question, and that is there was the, and Roger help me, we subscribed to it, and I was so enthusiastic about the hydroponic facility run by the prisoners. Why am I just blanking out on the name of it? Help me, Roger.
Yeah, now I am blanking out too.
Okay, but anyway, they had such a huge operation, and unfortunately it closed, and it was providing jobs for people coming out of prison, and it was just a win-win-win. And we subscribed to it and got greens weekly, and then, you know, paid a contribution.
Second Chances Farm.
Second Chances Farm. And it, unfortunately, it all closed and shut down. But I wonder if I don't know if anything from that facility, if there was any equipment or possibilities of somebody keeping something going. I mean, that was such an amazing hydroponic facility. I wonder if everything's gone from that. It's right over in that same area, the Riverside area. So I don't know if you're familiar with that or anything about that. And maybe I can do a little research, because I know somebody who worked there and was very enthusiastic about it. And they also did donate a lot of their food to people that were food insecure. So I guess the question is, were you aware of that facility? They opened right when COVID hit, and they were supposed to supply restaurants, and because the restaurants all closed right then, they then said, we'll take personal subscribers, and we did subscribe the whole time that they were in business, and it was wonderful. And they really grew some great things. So I don't know if there's anybody left from that whole operation that could maybe shift something a little bit.
Yeah, I actually wasn't aware that they had shut down. I know that they were one of the organizations that were bidding to support with this agricultural pod. So that's interesting. I would be interested in finding out kind of what happened, and if they still do have that equipment.
Yeah, I'll contact my contact, the person I know that did work there, and see if I can find out, because what you're doing is wonderful, and
thank you.
It would be great if that could somehow be applied.
Thank you.
My understanding of why the Second Chances Farm closed had more to do with an internal financial management that put them under rather than the project itself. So I think it would be a worthwhile endeavor to see what happened to all that equipment.
Also, there is some talent there because a number of
Yes.
people worked in that facility for a year growing hydroponic produce. And I'm sure they've developed some skills and they're out there somewhere, and their talents might be employed to do this again if they only had the chance.
Right. Well, I think it was 2+ years. It was a considerable length of time. But yeah, well, we'll see what we can find out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, we're hopeful that some of you will get the opportunity to just go down and see the garden, and perhaps get engaged on Saturday mornings. We have announcements out about that, and are hopeful that we will get some Westminster folks, but we invite anybody from the community who's either taking part in this program or who will hear it later, that these are opportunities that are available to you for engagement. And I know that our work team has just been so invigorated by Jessica's vision and commitment to this, and the small effort that we're making. I'm hopeful that we can continue that commitment and grow it. Jessica, I have another gardening sort of question. When does the gardening, the big summer gardening period actually end, and you go into a period when collecting foodstuffs is less available from gardens? Obviously, I don't know anything about gardening. I don't know what is planting season and what is not.
Yeah, so we try to do our best by doing seasonal gardening. And so we do have like an early spring season. So that's where, you'll see some of our cucumbers. Our middle of the summer, that's where our entire garden is booming. The end of the summer into the winter time, this is where we see a lot of our squash, our potatoes, onions and such. And honestly, we really don't taper down until November, like the first week of November, because we try our best to take advantage of the climate and what we can produce. And so we typically taper down and shut things down in end of October, early November.
Okay.
So Jessica, then what's your plan to keep the fridges stocked when that happens?
Yeah, so that's when we do the supplementing, 100% supplementing from the local produce spot, or any like produce junction or such. But that's really where we do the supplementing, and also we get the collard greens from the agricultural pod. So that's where our big donation, we need all hands on deck time really comes in, because we can no longer provide from the garden, and we really have to get those fridges super full. So the majority of our expenditures for the fridge are typically November through March timeframe.
Jessica, my sister and Becky and her husband Jim go to Produce Junction every week and all through the year, all winter and everything. That Produce Junction is an amazing place, and so they always have fresh produce at the Hanover Food Pantry every week. You can people who come to gather food can get fresh produce. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a local store in the city called the Produce Spot, and it's minority and women owned. So we try our best to support them when we can, and if not, then the Produce Spot is usually where we get the rest of our produce from. for sure.
Right. And there's another thing that grocery stores who have overflow, they also provide resources for Hanover, and
awesome.
I'm sure other food banks also. It's an amazing effort to service our
That's
community.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we do have somebody, I don't know who it is, but somebody who works at Trader Joe's often is dropping off like huge trash bags full of bread at our fridges. So I don't know who it is, but we do have somebody. I only know it's Trader Joe's because of the logo on there, but we do have somebody that does do that.
I know, it's amazing. I love it.
It's really cool.
2 years back, Jessica, our church got involved with working with the Food Bank of Delaware. And, any leftovers that, they were able to distribute, they would bring a couple pallets in, and we would have a certain day during the week that, word got out, and then we'd have people come in and pick up whatever produce or fruit, whatever may be available. And I was wondering if there was any connection with you folks to look there as well.
So we don't have an official partnership with the Food Bank of Delaware, but we do have somebody on our board that works in their education arm. So she does give us kind of the insider scoop on where they will be, so that we can be there to kind of collect some of the leftovers. Our Y fridge does have an official partnership. And so they also supplement their fridge through the Food Bank of Delaware. The Teen Warehouse also has, the Teen Warehouse in Reach Riverside also has a partnership. And so we felt like it would be duplicate efforts if we also did the same thing when those folks already have that partnership. And the Teen Warehouse actually has one of the food banks pantries that they call Plenty inside of their building. But again, there's specific hours where you can access it.
All right. Well, we're coming close to the end of our time together. I want to thank Jessica for coming under duress, no less, of having just contracted COVID. We hope that it won't be too bad for you and that will go well. But we've all, I think, been moved by both your vision and your energy. We're delighted to be collaborating with you in this project, and we look to ways that we may expand that opportunity at Westminster. And for those others who will be looking at this program, this is an open invitation. Jessica can be found. Her website is easily available. There is information there about how to contact her and how to volunteer in a variety of ways that may appeal to you. So thank you very much for coming. And I'm grateful that all of you have come as well. So we will see you at our program next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for
Casey.
Very much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Y'all have a great one.
All
Great
right.
job. Thank
Bye.
you.
You
Great.
too.